Now, growing up, I had really strict parents, and going to sleepovers was one thing I was never actually really allowed to do. You guys are probably wondering why, and if you guys have really cool parents that let you go sleep at anyone's house, well, y'all kind of lucky. But back then, going to sleepovers was something that really popular kids always ended up going and doing, and I was always jealous. I always thought to myself, Mom, Dad, why can't I go to a sleepover like everyone else is? Bubba, do you know who they are? Do you know what their family does for work? Do you know who they live with? No, but I mean, I'll figure it out and text you guys when I get to the sleepover was always my excuse. I always told them I would update them and everything, but my parents always thought it's better never to risk it. Until one day. I remember my grade 9 year. At this point, I'm like hitting high school. You know, I'm a cool kid, and you know, I started becoming more popular in the popularity chain. But still, to this day in grade 9, I still never actually ended up going on a sleepover until this one day. The one day where I ended up going to my science classroom. I sat down next to my buddy, and my friend looks at me saying, Yo, Bubba, I was just wondering, bro, do you want to come over and stay the night at my place tonight? Yeah, sure. Wait, like sleepover? Bro, we're in high school. No one says sleepover anymore. Oh, nah, I knew that. I was just like, you know, wondering because, you know, I always go to sleepovers and stuff. Well, yeah, don't you like always do the duels tango with girls? Like, I would thought that, you know, you go to sleepovers all the time. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, piece of cake. But obviously, I didn't tell him the truth that I never actually ended up going on a sleepover at this time and age because, well, I didn't want to seem like a loser that I never went to a sleepover. Anyways, after he asked me, he ended up standing up and leaving the classroom. And that's when I started to worry, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to a sleepover tonight. I'm going to a sleepover tonight. How am I going to tell my parents that I'm going to a sleepover tonight? Is what clicked in my mind. Until I realized that I could totally just do the main thing that most teenagers do at this time and age, and that's lie. I remember I went to my parents' room after school that day, and I ended up seeing them both sitting on the bed after their nice nap. I don't know why my parents always took naps when I was in high school, especially when I came home from school. I have really no idea why, unless they weren't napping. Wait a second. What if they weren't napping? Okay, never mind. Going on with the story. Sorry, that sounded weird. But like I was saying, I remember I walked in there. I'm like, hey, Mom, Dad, today I got a really important thing happening at school today. What, Bubba? What's going on? Is what my mom said. And that's when I told my mom and dad, Mom, Dad, there's a school sleep-in tonight, and it's actually worth 30% of our grade for high school. You have to sleep in the school for high school? What? What is this new generation coming up with? I don't know, honey, but I don't think this is right. Are you sure, Baba? Yeah, Mom, Dad, I'm sure, and I gotta go to the school sleep-in tonight, so if it's cool you drop me off, that'll mean a lot to me. Okay, Baba, if you say so, just be safe, okay? Yeah, of course, I'll update you. Okay, we trust you in school. Which is crazy to think about, because, like, what kind of parent trusts you sleeping inside a school, but not trusting you sleeping at a friend's house? Like, I know it's really different, and parents, if you guys do watch me, maybe you guys can, you know, explain to me how this works, but overall, I was okay with this, and I'm like, okay, you know what? It works out. Let's see how it goes. So I remember I went to my room and I started packing all the things I needed for a sleepover. Since I never had one, I didn't really know what to pack. Like, I ended up packing like a pillow, a blanket, because I didn't know if, you know, he had any. I ended up also packing like my underwear, my socks, and basically like a change of clothes. I thought that was more than enough until my mom and dad ended up coming into my room with a whole backpack already prepared for my school sleep-in, or my school sleep-in, I should say. I remember I looked at them and I'm like, Mom, Dad, why'd you guys pack for me? Bubba, you need to make sure you have toothbrush, toothpaste, a knife, protection, and on top of that, a lot of important things. Wait, did you just say a knife and protection? Bubba, they're the same thing. We're not giving you protection. Like for, you know, the duels tango. No, I get that, but I'm not bringing a knife, Mom. You don't know what happens at school. You never know nowadays. Which, to be fair, like, ever since I moved to America, I understand that, like, you know, school's dangerous. You know, I'm not gonna say it. You know, I'm not gonna be the guy to say it, but there are the school pows that happen. You know, bumped up kicks, better run. If you know what I'm saying, then it makes sense. But overall, like, I didn't think it should go to that extreme, especially since at that time, I was in Canada. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember my parents ended up giving me this bag, and I just took it because I didn't want them questioning any more about my school sleep-in, and they ended up driving me to school. When I got there, the school lights were totally off and the parking lot was like silent, and I remember my parents look at me and they're like, are you sure the school sleep-in's today? Yeah, no, 100% it is. Well, Bubba, why is there no one here? There's not even a car in the parking lot. The teachers are gonna be like parking behind the school, so like, you know, it's supposed to make the school look empty to not make it targeted. That's very smart of your school, Bubba. Remind me to call your school and say good job. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Just leave me right here. Okay, Bubba, be safe. My parents ended up dropping me off, and then they ended up driving away. And at that moment, I basically stood at my school at like 9 at night with no one around, and basically realizing that it was kind of dumb what I did. But at the same time, it wasn't fully dumb, because I ended up calling my buddy, and he ended up riding his BMX bike over to me, and me and him started walking back to his place. When we walked over to his place, he kept asking me questions like, dude, like, why'd you like not bring your bike? And also, why'd you also come to the school? Just tell your parents to drop you off at my place. Yeah, bro, that's not allowed, is what I told him. He's like, what do you mean? I mean, I don't know. They said this was the closest they could drop me off, so, you know, it just makes sense. I don't know. I tried to play it off as cool, so, you know, he wouldn't suspect any questions. In a way, I guess I was lying to a lot of people at this moment, which is not my brightest suit, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it made me, you know, stay cool and popular, so I wasn't complaining. And I remember once we got to his place, one thing I realized is that many people live very different ways. What do I mean by this? It's maybe because I'm Persian, or, you know, half Persian, I should say. But when I enter inside a home, I expect, you know, for me to take off my shoes. I expect for me to walk in and the place is all nice and clean. And I expect, you know, a nice friendly greeting. When I walked into my buddy's house that was white, I walk in there and he walks in with his shoes that were just, you know, walking through the mud back home from when we were walking from my school. And then on top of that, as we continue walking, I see his parents just look at me as if I'm some like homeless kid, and they just leave. It's like they don't even care I existed. And I was looking at my buddy and I'm like, yo, bro, is like, your parents cool with me being here tonight? Oh yeah, don't worry, man. They're cool. They're just, you know, they're just being parents. What do you mean just being parents? If it was my parents and I invited someone over, my parents are bringing them snacks. My parents are making them their bed. My parents are making sure that the floors are clean. Like, my parents make me clean my room when I have guests over. Like, my parents make me clean my room when they bring friends over, even though they never end up entering my room. Like, it makes no sense. But at the same time, though, you know, at the end of the day, I get it. You know, many cultures do different things to, I guess, their homes over time. But I guess, I don't know. I never expected the white culture to be so bland. After that weird interaction, I remember I looked over at my friend, and me and him, we ended up going to his room. We started playing video games. We started playing video games until it got really late at night. I want to say it became like 11 at night, and things started to get a little weird. What do I mean weird? Well, he started asking me weird questions like about girls and stuff, and obviously I told him all my answers, like, oh yeah, this girl's cute. Yeah, her cherries are bigger than, you know, our teachers. You know, like, we started like talking about like basic girl stuff. I don't know, guys, do you guys have like basic girl talk when you like talk with like your friends and stuff? I don't know if it's normal. I guess for me it was, since I was like known as a player back, especially when I was in high school. But anyways, from there, one thing led to another, and my buddy ends up hearing a rock hit the window. I end up looking at him and I'm like, yo, like, what was that, Bubba? They're here. Wait, what do you mean? Who's here? And I end up looking out the window and I realized it was two girls. And at this moment, I got confused. At this moment, I realized that my buddy apparently invited two girls that were mid, by the way. They were like super mid-tier girls. Like, they were pretty ugly, but we're gonna make them beautiful in this video with the beautiful animation characters we have, but not the point. My buddy ends up bringing two mid girls to his house, and we sneak them through the window. How do we sneak them through the window? Well, luckily my buddy like lived on like this like balcony kind of thing. So he ended up basically like pulling each one of those girls up through the window. And when they got through the window, I remember they both were talking to him because they didn't know me yet. I was just some random brown guy inside a white household. But anyways, these two girls were like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh my goodness, how you guys doing? What you guys up to, you know? And I'm just like standing there next to my buddy, and I'm like, you know, awkwardly not saying anything because, well, I thought this was gonna be a guy's night, but apparently he just brought me over to wingman, and not only just wingman, but to also take the fridge that was with the snack, which, to be fair, I don't know which one was the snack, but we'll just pretend there was one. And my buddy's like, oh, this is my friend Bubba, you know, he goes to my school, he's in my science class, he's pretty cool. Hi, how you guys doing? Is what I said really awkwardly. And then one thing led to another. I guess this girl was like trying to make her friend come over to me so she can hang out with my buddy. And to be fair, my buddy was much as a player as I was. To be honest, I learned a lot of my playing skills from him, until one thing led to another. My buddy's like, oh my goodness, guys, we should watch a movie. Okay, cool, yeah, let's watch a movie. So we all sit on his bed, trying to be as quiet as possible because we didn't know if his parents were still up. And it got to the point where we started like laying down on the bed, not knowing what movie to watch, until this girl that was next to me that was pretty ugly ends up saying, oh, we should watch like, oh my God, we should watch like Lord of the Rings. You want to watch Lord of the Rings? You want to watch a 4-hour freaking movie? Which I was already freaking out at this point, but then the girl that was her friend ends up saying, let's watch all of the Lord of the Ring movies. That's such a good idea. At this point, I'm baffled, but my buddy, he, he's a major, like, I guess player, but kind of pulled a simp card because he ends up saying, oh yeah, like we can so do that 100%. And he ends up putting the Lord of the Rings on. Me, I get super tired, especially when I watch movies. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I want to go to bed or I'm laying in bed about to sleep, I watch movies. I watch movies so I can, like, pass out to like a hearing voice. It's kind of like white noise. Some people sleep to white noise. I sleep to movies. So as we're watching this, Lord of the Rings film, I'm like slowly like passing out and my head's like slowly dropping. And then these girls are like, slowly like getting more excited about this film, even though they're still just walking through the woods and there's a giant bearded white guy. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, comment down below. But yeah, it just got really annoying. But I think over time, as the movie continued, I slowly started to pass out. I was passing out nice and slow until it really hit me. What hit me? Well, this girl's peach, I should say, ends up hitting my eggplant. And then she thought it was a good idea for her hand to reach down there and grab my eggplant. I'm not joking. I thought this was crazy. I woke up to her squeezing my soft eggplant and I'm like, yo, like what's going on? I woke up in a scare and all I see is that her friend and my buddy were passed out and she just was like still wide awake and she had her phone out filming what she was doing. At that moment, I got up and I actually just left. I'm not joking. I walked 15 minutes outside in the dark at 4 a.m. and went home. When I got home, my parents were like wondering how I got home and were worried about me, but that's not even the worst part. Because what ends up happening is the next day when I got to school, my buddy comes up to me when we're in the middle of science class, all super upset. And he's like, dude, you do realize what you did, right? No. What did I do? Dude, when you left my place, the alarm went off and my parents found out I brought 2 girls over. Thanks for getting me grounded, dummy. Oh, sorry, dude. My bad. Yeah, let's just say after that day, he didn't really hang out with me until I became more popular in grade 10 than him. But overall, I don't know. Sleepovers are really weird, especially when you make it a girl and boy sleepover. Okay, I'm gonna be brutally honest here. I have no idea why this is super requested. Like, for some reason, I remember, like, I put a poll up on YouTube, basically putting up, like, oh, like, what story do you guys want to see? And a lot of you guys chose this for some reason, and that's the story about me joining an all-girls sleepover. Now, I know it's crazy, and I know a lot of comments are like, oh my goodness, like, how would this guy even do that? Like, it's just not real. And honestly, as much as I hate to say it, it is. But the story will make sense once I say it, but before I do, make sure you guys click the link down in the description below and join my Discord server, my Twitch channel, and all that stuff to make sure you guys get to talk to me and get the latest update on these stories. Seriously, I love talking to you guys. You guys literally change my life every single day, so make sure you guys do join in and come hang out with me. Now, other than that, let's get straight into the story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and today I'm gonna be telling you guys how I joined an all-girls sleepover. But for me to do that, I'm gonna have to take this back to high school. You see, back when I was in high school, it was my grade 9 year, and honestly, I wasn't the coolest kid on the block. I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of awkward, but at the same time, I had some sort of confidence in me, especially when it came to playing video games. I guess that's where most of my confidence went to, since I could literally own anyone in Call of Duty at the time. But now, I don't know, when it came to women, I wasn't the most confident. So I remember one time in my math class, I remember walking up to my friend. We're gonna call him Logan. I remember walking up to Logan saying, yo, bro, like, honestly, man, like, I don't think any of these girls like me, bro. Like, I guess I'm just that weird. And he told me the secret to getting girls at the time was literally be quiet, silent, but deadly. And honestly, I didn't know what that meant, to be honest. The last time I heard that was on a nature channel, but I took it into experience and kind of figured out my own way to be silent but deadly. So at the time, I remember I had this crush in my school, and let's just say she was outstanding. By the way, real quick, for you guys always saying, like, how many crushes does this guy have? Reminder, I was a helpless romantic, and once I knew that I had no shot with the girl, I automatically switched up to another girl. I know, it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. And also, for the person that commented, are you a player? At this time and age, I think I was turning into one. But anyways, going on. So I remember I had this crush in my school at the time, and she was outstanding, and she was in my socials period. And I remember every time I walked into my socials period, she would be there sitting on my table group that I had at the time, where it was basically me, 3 of her friends, and her. So as you guys can tell, this group was literally 4 girls and me. And knowing my crush was one of the 4 girls, honestly, it was actually not that bad. I remember getting to talk to them and stuff, and obviously I was always being the quiet guy at the time. And I'm not gonna lie, being the quiet guy and playing the quiet guy card wasn't that bad, because obviously for some reason girls open up a lot more when you're just silent and sitting there. I don't know why, but I mean, it just happens anyway. And I remember one time, it was like a Friday, I think, and I remember one of the girls at our table group at the time was throwing this slumber party, and for some reason they decided to literally invite me. Now at first I was questioning how and why they invited me. And I remember I was kind of like excited and I said yes, because I don't know who would say no to an all-girls sleepover. But at the same time, what I ended up finding out later on was actually insane. But going on with the story, I remember being all excited, saying yes. They said, okay, bet, come to my place at exactly 6 o'clock. Honestly, at this moment in time, honestly, my mind was blown that she even invited me. To know that I was going to a slumber party with my crush and literally 3 other girls, like, I thought it was like something I always saw in the movie. Well, not movies, I actually saw it on the Devil's Hub. But you know what I mean. I remember later on throughout the day, I went to my buddy Logan again. And I told him, hey, like, bro, like, I got invited to an all-girls sleepover. I remember he looked at me and he's like, you do know they probably think you're gay, right? At that moment, I realized it made sense. These girls literally opened up to me about everything in that table group. From bra sizes to when they get their bloody months, whatever that means, to literally even talking about other guys in front of me. And then I noticed they thought I was gay. So at this moment, I had no idea what to do. But then my friend Logan reminded me something. Remember, be silent but deadly. So at that moment, I knew I'm gonna shoot my shot at the sleepover. When the day came of the sleepover, I remember I was hyped. I got my coolest PJs on, but nothing too, you know, flashy, so they don't think I wasn't gay at the time. And I remember going into that sleepover, and her dad looked at me as I walked through the door. Her dad looked at me saying, oh, you must be Bubba. Nice to meet you. My daughter's really happy to be friends with you. And at the moment, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, friend card. Woohoo. And I remember going up to her bedroom. She had a really bright pink bedroom, and she had like a beanbag chair where everyone was sitting on, and my crush was sitting on the bed with her friend who owned the house. And it was actually really fun. Surprisingly, girls do a lot of things in sleepovers, but I didn't know where I was going to draw the line. I remember during the sleepover, we started watching scary movies. So we watched Scream of all things. And then after Scream, I remember we ended up doing like mani-pedis. I don't know what it was, to be honest. I had no idea how to pronounce it, but honestly, it had something to do with our nails, okay? And I'm gonna be honest, as a guy, getting treated by a bunch of women was pretty nice. But then it became Truth or Dare. Now, Truth or Dare was actually pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. I learned a lot of things about girls at the time. More than I thought I would learn from that table group. But then when it came to like Truth or Dare and it came to me, I remember my crush asked me, Bubba, Truth or Dare? And I instantly knew this was gonna be crazy. I said Dare because obviously what's the worst like girls can do to you? And then she asked me, I want you to literally take off your pants right now. At that moment, I was shaking. I was like, okay, this is getting way too intense for me, but honestly, screw it. Because at the time, I had the balls to. So I remember I took off my pants and then instantly all the girls saw that I actually had a hard on at the time. I probably forgot to say that. I did have the devil's bone and it was pretty bad. But then after that, they kind of like ignored it and kept going on with the game. Then the next person went down and it was one of her friends, and her friend was like, I want a dare, give me a dare too. And basically the dare was for her to take off her shirt. So as you guys can tell, things were getting a bit more intense in this game, to the point where I'm not gonna lie, all of us were basically almost naked. Now this is where the story gets really intense, to the point where I actually started freaking out. And you guys are probably thinking, oh, like you're gonna score, that's it, you're going for the home run, baby, get him down, pipe him hard. Yeah, it didn't really end like that. Let's just say when it was my turn for Truth or Dare, and for the one time for some reason I decided to say truth, one of the girls asked me, when did you turn gay? And at that moment, I knew I had to either confess my sins or forever be known in this friend group that I was a gay person. So I told them the truth. I said, I'm actually not. And then they all looked at me. They're all started laughing at first, but then they realized and remembered that I had a devil's bone coming out of me at the time. And let's just say one thing led to another, and they all basically started yelling at me. Yeah, no, I know. I didn't end up doing the devil's tango. Because let's be real here, they didn't all think I was attractive. For God's sakes, they literally thought I was a gay best friend. But they all kind of like started like basically threatening me and literally started like yelling at me. I don't know. It was really bad, to the point where actually, funny enough, her dad came upstairs and said, hey, what's going on here? Oh God. When her dad came in, I knew it was over. And instantly, for some reason, these girls were like, oh, nothing. We were playing a game. Then I got confused. I was like, wait, what? Wait, you're not gonna kick me out? One of the girls said, no, we're not gonna kick you out, but you're gonna do something for us. Now, this is where I got scared because I didn't know what these girls wanted me to do. But basically, they told me, we want you to literally go outside butt naked and go home. Bruh, are you joking? So I remember I took off all my clothes. I was butt naked. And basically, I had to run home. I had to run all the way home in the freezing cold, which was like 2 blocks away, by the way, and literally run to my room. I remember when I entered my house, my mom looked at me saying, where did all your clothes go? Yeah, that wasn't fun fun to explain. And let's just say the next day at school as well, when I walked up to the table group, they ended up moving my table to like against the wall far away from them. And yeah, let's just say I never got to talk to my crush again after that. Kind of sucks. All right, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So today's story takes place back when I was in high school. And honestly, I know what the title looks like, and trust me, I can explain it. You see, back in high school, this was my grade 9 year, and I remember basically in grade 9, everyone was getting hormones. And if you guys don't know what hormones are, basically it's when your body starts to change. A lot of people are late bloomers in high school, so a lot of them start getting in grade 9 to grade 10. But also, I'm not gonna lie, as for me, I got a lot of it throughout grade 8, grade 9, and 10. I don't know, I guess I was somewhat of a late bloomer, but also a bit early. Yo, bro, so like me and some girls are having a sleepover at my place. It's gonna be like a boy and girl kind of like sleepover. It's gonna be pretty cool. I just wanted to know if you would come, because like there's a couple chicks that said that I should invite you. So like, you down? I remember when he told me that, I was actually pretty down for it. I don't know, sleepovers are pretty fun usually, and I remember back when I was a kid, like way younger than grade 9, sleepovers were like the top thing. Like I remember back when I was a kid, me and my cousin, we loved having sleepovers together because we just play video games all night. But I guess in this sense, since I was getting invited from a school friend, and in being in high school, who knows what would have happened. And also, not to mention, there were gonna be girls there. So I remember I told him, oh yeah, man, like I'm so down. And I remember I dabbed him up, and then afterwards he added me to a Snapchat group chat that was basically all the people that were going. There were 10 people going, 5 of them were guys and 5 of them were girls. But I remember when I got added to the group chat, there were 3 different girls that actually were really interested in me and wanted to talk to me. Now at first I was pretty awkward about this, I won't lie, because I didn't really know how the sleepover was gonna go. But obviously what I decided to do was that night, I remember I went home to my parents and started telling them that there's a sleepover going on and all this stuff. And obviously I didn't tell them girls were going to be there, because then I knew my dad would be pretty upset. Because let's be real here, when you're in high school, your parents don't really want you to go out and having a crazy adventure unless your parents aren't strict like mine. But basically I remember I told them, hey, mom, dad, I'm going to be going to a sleepover, and it's just like, you know, me and my friend. Is it cool? I remember my mom asked me, who's going to be there, what's the address, and tell me what time I should pick you up tomorrow. I remember she said that, and honestly, my mom would always come in clutch for me. Like, no jokes. Like, you always have that one parent you're dependent on to, like, you know, be there for you and always be by your side. And for me, that was my mom. My dad, on the other hand, well, he was more loving and supportive, but he always made sure I was on the right path. And it's funny for me to say that, because now I'm a YouTuber talking about doing the Devil's Tango. But, you know, let's keep going with the story. Anyways, I remember after I told my parents about it, they were really calm with it. And I remember they ended up driving me that night to my friend's house. And when I got there, I'm not gonna lie, I only had my pillow, my blanket, and a change of pajamas in my bag, and also a pair of underwear just in case anything happened. Because I won't lie, I had a bladder problem back when I was a kid, so taking a waz on the bed was very common for me. Yes, okay, I was a bedwetter. I don't know how else to explain it to you guys, okay? It was just a bad habit. Because like, you know, like that feeling when you get like a really bad dream, and then like that dream leads you to like wake up, and like you go to the bathroom, and like you end up waking up not actually being in the bathroom. There's no way I'm the only person that ever had those dreams, okay? You know, that's a story for another time, but that's basically what happened to me usually. So I remember I had an extra pair of underwear, extra change of pajamas, and I had my blanket and my pillow. And I brought one of my favorite pillows ever. It wasn't just a normal pillow. It was actually, funny enough, a really cool pillow that my grandma got me. It was like this really cool silk, and it felt really, really nice. Anyways, I remember when I got there, I saw everyone there, and basically I saw my friend walk up to me saying, yo, bro, okay, so girls are in that room, guys are in this room, but we're gonna like all hang out in the living room and like watching a movie together. So like, pick your girl, you know what I'm saying? They've been waiting for you, bro. Thanks, I guess, is what I told him. Then afterwards, I remember me and my buddy, we ended up going to the living room, and all the girls were there, and they all saw me. They all started talking to me, and I remember one of the girls ended up saying, hey, like, so when we watch the movie, do you want to like cuddle with me? I mean, I could. And then another girl walks up to me saying, hey, like, Bubba, you know what? You should cuddle with me instead. As she like starts like perking up her cherries. I don't know. It became really awkward. And I remember there was like one of the guys that were there at the sleepover, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I think I've explained this before, but you guys all know that one person that can never pull a girl. Like, just by looking at them, you know they cannot pull women. Yeah, that was that guy. But then I remember I basically just sat down on the couch and just sat there with 2 girls beside me, and we just started watching the movie. We were watching a movie, I think it was like some kind of horror movie. I have no idea. It's basically about this guy who was like a knife, and he just like has like a weird like mask. I have no idea what the movie was, but basically it made no sense. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of horror movies. I don't know if you guys like horror movies, but for me, it's just a no-go. But I remember we were basically watching this movie. I had 2 chicks beside me. We were all eating popcorn, and I'm not gonna lie, it got to the point where these girls were literally feeding me popcorn. I don't know, I felt like a king, and it was pretty awesome. But then, I'm not gonna lie, things got really, really bad. Because the entire time we were watching this movie, on the corner of my eye, I saw this guy just staring me down, being all angry and upset. No, I didn't know what to do. And honestly, I wanted to come in clutch. So I remember I decided to kind of talk him up and be the wingman. Because you already know one thing you guys have to understand is that the bro code is always valid. You always got to be there for the homies that need a girl. You already know what I mean. Like, for example, if your friend goes into a breakup, the boys are there for you. You know what I mean? So you got to be one of those guys. And I remember I was that guy. So I remember I basically started to, you know, talk him up. So I remember I pointed at him saying, yo, bro, like, you're the smart guy in my class, bro. Like, didn't you like finish the homework early and stuff? And right away when he looked at me, he knew what I was trying to get at, but he didn't want to acknowledge it. For some reason, this guy was being so annoying and so upset to the point where he was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Leave me alone. Okay, dude, I was just trying to help, but whatever. Anyways, after that moment, I remember I basically just didn't talk to him, and I remember I was just talking to these girls. And then I want to say like 2 hours in, my friend ended up ordering pizza. We all started eating pizza together. We all ate pizza. We started talking about life in school and started talking like, you know, mad, like bad talk, like talking behind people's backs, because that's like the only thing that's entertaining in high school, really. And then I remember this guy ended up for some reason deciding that we should play a game of truth or dare. Now, when we were playing truth or dare, I remember things got really interesting. And remember, we were in grade 9, so we were like really innocent somewhat. Well, I mean, I wasn't really, and the girls weren't, but for some reason, most of the guys at that party were innocent, I will say. So I remember one of the guys ended up getting truth or dare, and I remember he said, oh, like, I'll do a dare, I guess. And then the girl gave it to him, so basically the girl gave him the dare to take off his shirt. And for some reason, when it was his turn, he decided to tell a girl to take off her shirt when she said dare, and no joke, this girl ended up taking off her shirt. And when this happened, I remember I didn't really care, obviously, but obviously I got a little bricked. And then basically, the guy that basically was like jealous of me the entire time we were there literally got bricked. And it was obvious because he was wearing those like really tight like sweatpants that you like get from like Costco or something. Like he was like really obviously bricked up. Now, I'm not gonna say why I was looking down there, but I'm just saying it got really weird. And then I remember basically after that, my buddy was like, okay, you know what? We should all just go to bed. This is getting weird. So I remember we all ended up going to bed, and we all ended up going into separate rooms. So basically the guys had one room and the girls had the other. Obviously, we wanted to keep things somewhat appropriate, okay? Just in case his parents came home that night, you know? We wanted to make sure we were following the house rules. But then I remember I ended up getting a snap from a girl that added me on Snapchat from the group chat that we were in earlier. She ends up sending me a snap saying, hey, like, you want to like maybe like, you know, make out in the living room? And I remember I said I was down, so I ended up going to the living room, and basically I ended up sitting on the couch and just started making out with her. Obviously, we weren't going to do the devil's tango, but this girl really wanted to. And then I remember like 20 minutes in, for some reason, I saw someone peeking through the door of like the bedroom that I was in before, and it was one of the guys. So I remember I kind of like pulled the girl off me and said, yo, give me 1 sec here. And then I ended up walking towards the room. But as I started walking towards it, I remember seeing this guy just basically run and went to the bathroom that was inside that room. When he went there, I remember I was looking around and I was like trying to figure out who was missing. And then I realized it was the one guy, the one dude that was literally jealous of me the entire night. So I was super weirded out, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go to bed and tell that girl to go to bed. So I remember I went back to the living room, told the girl, yo, just go to bed. Like we can like hang out some other time, but like let's just go to sleep, bro. I'm kind of tired. And then she said, oh, okay, just did you figure out who was watching us? Don't worry about it. It was just a mistake or something, is what I said afterwards. She said okay, and then she ended up going to bed. And then afterwards, I remember when I came back into the room and I wanted to lay down back in my bed, my pillow wasn't there. For some reason, my nice silk pillow was not there at all. I was super weirded out, and I was like figuring out where it was. And then I realized that the guy was still in the washroom, and he sounded like he was like attacking something. Like it sounded like, I know it's weird to make sound effects, but trust me, it's for the video, okay? It's just so you guys get an idea. And then I remember I knocked on the door saying, yo, bro, by any chance, do you have my pillow in there? And then the man opens the door. He ended up giving me the pillow, and he went straight to bed and laid down. And then I was like, what were you doing with my pillow? I thought you maybe like, you know, punched it or something to get his anger out. And don't get me wrong, I had a really nice puffy pillow. So I remember I ended up getting my pillow, laying in bed, and I remember when I put my head on the pillow, I hear like a squish noise, like a... And when I heard that, I was so weirded out. I'm like, what's going on? So I remember I take my pillow to the bathroom and I turn on the light and I see that there's literally devil's cream on my pillow. He put literally his eggplant in my pillow. Like, what? I remember when he did this, I was disgusted. And I remember went outside the room, turned on the light and said, dude, what did you do to my pillow? All the guys ended up waking up and all the girls ended up waking up because I yelled it pretty loud. And they all came into the room and I'm like, bro, what'd you do? And he's like, well, you had all the girls, so like I had to get something for myself. My pillow? Like, dude, it was so disgusting. And honestly, to this day, I wish it never happens to anyone. But all I'm saying is that don't use another man's pillow. I don't know. After that day, none of us ended up talking to him and we never invited him to another hangout again. But you know, it's just gross, dude. Okay, so honestly, I remember when I was a kid, a lot of crazy things were happening. Like, my life is always so bizarre and always so crazy. And honestly, every time I get on the microphone just to tell you guys one of these, I always have to recite everything that happens. And honestly, like, sometimes I miss out little bits and pieces. And sometimes I just think, holy cow, I really just told the story to the whole internet. But today's story is something a little too crazy. And honestly, I don't even know if it's allowed on YouTube. So YouTube, I'm gonna keep this as PG as possible. PG. But yes, if you guys did see from the title, this is the very sus sleepover. But also, before I get into it, I want to make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe for more of these stories. Seriously, clicking that like button and subscribing means a lot when you guys do it. Like, seriously, let's aim for 2,000 likes on this video. It would mean a lot if we can do that. And on top of that, if you guys don't know, I am currently live right now on Twitch. Like, literally, as you're watching this video right now, I am live streaming to a bunch of other people live. So if you guys want to talk to me live, I mean, you might as well. This is your chance to talk to me, get into conversation, try to figure me out, and try to really, I don't know, interrogate me if you want to know if these stories are real. Because in my mind, I can say 100 times they're real, but obviously not everyone will believe it. So I guess this is your chance in a way. Anyways, going on though, let's get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story is a little sus. Now, I'm not talking like Among Us sus. I'm talking like sus. Basically, I remember back when I was in high school, this was my grade 10 year. And being in grade 10, obviously, like I said, usually in grade 10, I was like in that stage of always, you know, getting active, you know, I was talking to chicks, getting excited, you know, like I knew that I was really good at doing the devil's tango. And, you know, that was like that time of the year when, you know, I would just go for girls, play Call of Duty, hit up more girls. It was that stage in my life. And I remember when I was just kind of like, you know, doing that, I had a group of guys because obviously for some reason I was considered cool in a sense because I knew a lot of chicks, which is really weird because like, I don't know, it just was awkward in a way, but you know, whatever. And I remember this group of guys, these are like friends of mine, I guess. And they were like kind of nice. They were chill with me and stuff. They were good to me. I'll say that much. They were good until a certain time. That's a story for another time. But going on, I remember one of the guys invited me over to like this guy's night. And you know, it was basically like a guy play date or whatever, but it was overnight. So in a way, it was a guy's slumber party. I don't like calling it a guy's slumber party, but honestly, it just makes the most sense in a way. And I remember he invited me and he said all the friends he was inviting and stuff. And it was like, I don't know, like a group of 10 guys. Obviously, you know, this was a cool way to, you know, meet more people, network, and, you know, get, I guess, a better friend group in high school in a way, I guess. I don't know. So I remember telling him, oh yeah, like, sure, like I'm down to go to sleepover. Like, why not? And then he told me, bro, it's not a sleepover, man. It's a guy's hangout night. What are you talking about? Sure. Anyways, going on. I remember he invited me, and as he invited me, I remember another guy walked up to me saying, oh, it's gonna be super fun. And he slapped me right in my peach. Yeah, he slapped me on my peach. I don't know why. I guess it's like a thing that sports players do because he was like a sports player. Like he played rugby. So I guess it was just this thing to slap my peach. I don't know, man. I really don't care. And I remember when he did that, I felt really awkward. And obviously I was like, dude, like relax. Okay, relax. Like if it was a girl doing it to me, I wouldn't mind. But you know, it was a guy. Did not want him touching my peach. You guys get the case. I don't have to keep talking about the peach. Going on, I remember the next day happened. And I remember he invited us all over. And obviously this was a Friday going on to a Saturday night. So obviously it was a lot better. And I remember I got my things ready. I packed my stuff. I got my bag, or duffel bag, I should say, and packed it all up with all my clothes, my toothbrush, my razor, everything. And I got ready to leave. When I drove down there, I remember I parked my car and there was a full lot of other different people's cars. It was like there was like a serious party happening when in reality it was just a bunch of guys at one place. It was like a literal sausage fest. I don't know what else to tell you. I remember I walked in through the door, and when I walked through, I remember seeing all the guys just kind of chilling, playing video games, watching TV, Snapchatting their girls, all that stuff. And I remember when I walked in, instantly, the guy who invited me walked up to me saying, hey, Bubba, welcome to the party. And then he slapped my peach. Honestly, I don't understand why people are slapping my peach, bro. I don't get it. Sorry. Going on. So I walked in, I was just kind of chilling, you know, I saw people getting food. We ordered pizza, and we ordered more food, and then we just kept playing video games. But then the most weirdest of the weird ended up happening. One of my friends stood up on the couch saying, guys, we gotta play games, bro. It's games night time. And I thought we were just gonna, like, I don't know, open up like Call of Duty and do like 1v1s or something like we usually do when I was a kid, when I was going into a sleepover. But no, he wanted to do something more. I remember we ended up playing Truth or Dare. Now this is where things get really sus. We were playing Truth or Dare, and I remember we were going around the circle. Obviously a lot of people chose Truth and, you know, said some confession about their girlfriend. Like one of my friends said, oh, like my girlfriend likes it when I put my feet in between her cherries. Ooh. Yeah, I don't understand. To this day, I'll never understand understand that, but that was just stuck in my head for the longest time. And then going on, I remember, you know, people were going around the circle, people licked walls. This game got extreme. And then it came to my turn. Now, honestly, I don't like telling people about my private life. As funny as that is, honestly, I don't like saying names. I don't like saying, like, you know, this person, that person, nor do I like saying anything. To be honest, when I tell these stories, I try to be very vague. So don't, you know, the irony of me making videos about these and then telling about my private life, but at the same time, you know, it's not like I'm giving you all the information. But continue on with the story. I remember it came to me and I said dare instead of truth. I said dare because dare was, you know, the better option. I guess for me in that case. And I remember my friend told me, take off all my clothing and run around the block. I was going to run around the block but naked. Are you serious? Honestly, I did not want to do this. I really did not want to do this, but it was truth or dare. And I'm a man of my word when it comes to truth or dare. So I remember I went to the bathroom. I got butt naked. I ran outside and I just ran around the block. I swear there was some old granny just looking at me through the window, seeing me do that. And I think she did call the cops. I'm not 100% because I heard sirens, but I guess they didn't find me because I was in the house. But you know what? It was weird. I don't know. I ran around the block. I came back in. I put on my clothes and everyone was just laughing. Except one guy. One guy was not laughing. He was actually smiling in enjoyment. I don't know why. I was always odded out by that. And we sit down and when it was the guy who was smiling's turn to go for truth or dare. But it was me to ask him. I remember I told him truth or dare. And then he said, oh, like I'll choose like dare. And I realized the way he talked was really, how do I put this in non-canceling way? It was fruity. Okay. It was like a fruity kind of like talk. Like, you know, when you meet like a gay guy and he has like that gay guy voice, you know, I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm not trying to get canceled, but like, you know, it's not all gay guys people, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like you guys get the gist of what I'm saying, right? Well, he kind of had that accent. And I remember I told him, oh, kiss him. And I pointed at the guy who invited me to the party and also made me run around the block naked. And funny enough, the guy who like invited me didn't want to do it. He's like, no, dude, like that's too much. That's too much. And then after that, the guy who I told to do it was excited. He was like, oh, I'll do it any day. And instantly, this guy ended up grabbing him by the shoulders, like literally by the shoulders and kissing him. And it got to the point where it wasn't just a tap kiss like I expected. They were straight up making out. Like it was, oh my God, dude. If I had to explain this, bro, it was so sus because everyone was just looking like kind of like, should we interfere with this? Do we do anything? And then that happened. Now, you guys thought that was like the end of it, right? You guys probably like, oh, like that's it. Okay, they kissed. Whoop-de-doo. No, it gets more sus. Keep listening. I remember the night came and basically, you know, everyone's getting ready for bed. Everyone's laying down in the living room, sleeping, getting ready to sleep as we watch a movie. And I remember as I was laying down, the guy that was like somewhat gay, I think he was gay. Honestly, he never came out to as gay or anything, but he, you know, was laying down beside me. And I remember as he was laying down beside me, he was touching my thigh and then he put his arm around my neck. And at this point, I was so uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, dude, relax. Like I literally stood up. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He looked at me. He's like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, dude, no, you know what you're doing. And after that, everyone just kind of looks at me and him. And the guy's like, okay, I have something to tell you guys. He stood up in front of the TV and told all of us that he was bisexual. Honestly, this was the first time I ever heard that word. I'm gonna be honest. At that time, that was the first time I ever heard it. And I was so confused. I'm like, bisexual? Like, what do you mean? Like, you don't like you don't like the devil's tango? Like, you say bye to it? Like, what do you mean? He's like, no, look, I'm into guys and girls. Oh, okay. That's great, man. Like, I literally said, that's great, dude. Like, be what you want to be, but don't touch me. And then I ended up, you know, moving into a different spot and laying down and I slept. But the story gets worse, okay? You guys thought that was the end? No, it still gets worse. I remember what ended up happening was I woke up in the middle of the night out of nowhere. And I was kind of near the bathroom door. Like, I was kind of like sleeping near the bathroom because, you know, I want easy access to go pee-pee. And I remember I ended up like waking up and I just heard grunting in the bathroom. And I looked around to see who was in the bathroom to like, you know, look at everyone, see who's in the bathroom, figure out what's happening. And I realized that the guy who came out as bisexual was in the bathroom. And apparently to this day, we're not 100% sure, folks. Okay, so don't 100% this on me. But apparently he was beating it in the bathroom. He was slapping his eggplant in the bathroom when I was literally near it. At this point, dude, I felt so uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. I did not want to be there anymore. This sleepover got way too sus for me. So I remember I ended up getting my things, packing everything, and I went home. The next day at school, my friend came up to me saying, yo, like, bro, like, you left the party early, man. Like, what happened to you? We all got breakfast. And I told him, bro, I don't want to talk about it because I'm not a snitch, but I'm never going to one of those again. And I walked away. And to this day, I still haven't. I'm happy I don't go to guy sleepovers. After that was just my worst experience. And that is basically it, guys. So make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. And once again, a reminder, I am live currently on Twitch. If you guys do want to talk to me about this story and, you know, just hang out. But other than that, like I always say, fall for more embarrassing and yet really weird stories. Peace out, guys.